Dear little me, in my sexual citizenship class, we speak a lot about boundaries, negative effects of pornography, and learning about affirmative consent and personal agency. All are invaluable lessons for young people. I wish I had a better understanding of how harmful porn is, what affirmative consent looks like in many scenarios when I needed it in middle and high school. In my experience, a lot of people only have a vague idea of what affirmative consent is. They think it's just a simple yes or no response to someone. Consent is a lot more than just a yes or a no, and persuading someone to have sex with you or asking 10 times until they say yes is not consent. Culture teaches females to make people happy and feel good, and don't let people down. For some reason, it's so easy for us to respond confidently to ordering or rejecting a burger or a coffee, but when it comes to our bodies, many girls feel like they can't stand up for themselves or speak about what they like or don't like.
Dear Mom, I was young when I was first touched by a boy, and I knew nothing at all about sex. I thought this was okay for boys to touch me without giving me consent, and I saw absolutely nothing wrong with it. I was so focused on wanting the boy to be happy and thinking it was normal to just be used and treated as simply a body for their pleasure. Honestly, I needed these lessons from my class a very long time ago. Since I was never asked for or taught about consent, I was the victim of sexual assault. I know it could have been prevented if I knew more.
Dear younger me, I have something important I want to discuss with you. I needed to know that boys can be sexually assaulted. To be more specific, I wish I'd known that boys can get sexually assaulted and that it was okay to talk about it. I just took a class called Sexual Citizenship, and until this class, I didn't realize what happened to me is considered sexual assault.
Porn contributes to the problem of consent because porn never shows consent. At 12, I thought having an iPhone was the best thing in the entire world. Today, I know it's probably the worst thing to ever happen to me. I've experienced sexual assault, as do have many of my friends. Culture and porn have taught us men's desires and fulfilling their sexual needs is more important than making sure their partner is comfortable and consenting to what they want to do.
You don't know this about me, but the first time I lost my virginity, my partner assumed I wasn't a virgin and was very harsh towards me. Before we hooked up, he was nice to me. And over Snapchat, he acted like we were in a relationship. From the first time we met, he treated me inappropriately, immediately asking me to go into a room alone with him. I understand now this should have been a red flag. In the room, he choked me, picked me up, and threw me at the end of the bed. He didn't respect me or care about me at all. He knew I was bleeding and shaking and continued to have sex with me because all he cared about was himself. I was scared and hurt, but I didn't know this was unhealthy. I was so focused on wanting him to like me and pleasing him. At the time, I didn't see this behavior as wrong, rapey, or unhealthy. Because I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like, I reasoned that all boys treat girls like this sexually.
I was 3 years old, and my little cousin came over. At the time, I'd say he was the closest friend I had. He said he had a new game he wanted to play. He guided me to the couch and laid me flat on my back. He then proceeded to pull my shorts down and put my penis in his mouth. At the time, I didn't know what was going on. I just started to feel the tickling sensation that intensified until I was left gasping for air. Afterward, he made me do the same to him in the backyard. I had no idea why, but later he began to be very rude and treat me with a great deal of contempt. Honestly, I had buried what happened to me until I was about 13 or 14 years old. It would take many more years until I was mature enough to understand that the same had probably been happening to him. Eventually, I made peace with the situation. Looking back, one of the most difficult things about the whole experience was I had no one I felt safe speaking with it about.
Underage drinking is constantly happening at high school parties. Sophomore year, my best friend and I both attended our neighboring school's winter dance and the party that followed. My friend got extremely intoxicated, and the next thing I knew, she had disappeared into another room. I had no idea what happened until the next morning when a rumor spread that she hooked up with a guy in our grade that had a history of sexually assaulting girls. I just believed what happened between them was a consensual hookup. Drunk one-night stands are so normalized in our society that it didn't even cross my mind that she had been raped. She never told me, her best friend, that she was raped because she blamed herself for his unwanted and non-consensual actions. She was so intoxicated that all she could remember was his body on top of hers. She couldn't remember the situation enough to know whether or not she said yes. Because of my class, I know you cannot consent to sex when you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Alcohol disrupts our decision-making, and no matter what she said during the time, it is impossible to give consent.
I remember the first traumatic experience with someone violating my body at 13. I didn't even know what it was at the time. I didn't understand that I had been sexually assaulted by my neighbor. I knew it felt wrong. I wasn't dumb, but I didn't know the extent of the damaging effects it would have on my life for years. If I would have known the damaging effects the assault would have on down the road, I would have told my mom and dad I need therapy. I remember men touching me, innocently, triggering uncontrollable anxiety. The hardest part is that the person who assaulted me was a dear friend. So I learned not to trust at an early age.
Mom, you taught me as a kid to always look out for strangers, especially men. But you always assumed that people close to me or women could do no wrong. But I would find out that women can be abusers as well. They can assault, and unfortunately, because I didn't know any better, I was assaulted by them. Sadly, I've only been assaulted by people I knew and trusted. I took what happened to me and thought it was okay because they were friends. I needed to be taught how to spot an abuser and avoid the many bad situations I experienced in my childhood.
From my class, I now believe he must have learned how to treat girls from porn, and he thought it was normal. If only I had known then what I know now, I could have recognized the red flags. I would have known the qualities of healthy sexual encounter and healthy relationships. Maybe I could have prevented this trauma. I wish I would have spoken up for myself. If only I had a greater understanding of consent and sexual assault, this could have all been prevented. I needed someone to tell me how a good partner treats you. When I was young, I needed someone to tell me I am more than just a body. I needed to know that there was a trusted adult that would not judge me and give me a safe space to process what had happened to me and the messages I was getting from our culture. I needed to understand that what happened to me was assault. What happened to me was wrong.
Today, I realize the deeper impact these incidents have had on my psyche. Deeper than I realized. I believe they planted the seeds that would grow into isolating myself from everyone close to me, as well as my self-esteem and trust issues. I needed to know that boys also get sexually assaulted, what it looks like, and I wish I had known how to reach out to someone that could have helped me, so I didn't have to trudge forward on my own.
The trauma she continually faces to this day, and the constant reminder that he denied her the right to agency over her body. She is 1 in a million girls that this happens to, and 1 in 10 girls that it happened to in my own school.
Did you know that 1 in 6 men have been sexually abused or assaulted? Maybe if more conversation about consent or predatory behavior or unhealthy relationships happened, we would have never had this statistic. Most importantly, Dad, I wish more fathers would teach their sons that if sexual assault does happen, it's powerful and healing to talk about it.
I needed to know it's okay to walk away from a situation that makes you feel anxious, uncomfortable, or weird. I needed to know that when kids are assaulted, they don't forget. They need therapy. I grew up believing that other people's feelings mattered more than my own. I needed to know only I get to decide what happens to my body and that people close to us can be perpetrators of assault.
I appreciate it, bro.